Hello, this is part 2 of our lecture in Book 1 of the Revised Penal Code. So, criminal law has three characteristics: generality, territoriality, and prospectivity. So, when we say the criminal law is general in nature, general means it is applicable to all. That's the general rule, without any exceptions. It must be applicable to the general populace. Okay, with the exceptions on certain laws which require or which allows exceptions, but general rule, it must be applied to all. In terms of territoriality as a characteristic of criminal law, it means that it has an effect to all within its territory. That is why it's important for us to know up to which extent is our area of jurisdiction. No, as said here, penal laws of the country have force and effect only within its territory. It cannot penalize crimes committed outside its territory. So, yung authority natin to punish, authority natin to apprehend, authority to implement the law is only within the Philippine territory. So, as you go back to the discussion on the national territory, only those mentioned there as considered the Philippine territory are under our Philippine laws. So, kung labas na doon, hindi na applicable yung batas natin. We take note of theory on areal jurisdiction, which is an absolute theory. It means that the subjacent state has complete jurisdiction over the atmosphere above, subject only to innocent passage by aircraft of a foreign country. So, it means that yung extent ng teritoryo natin hindi lang sa lupa, no? It extends up to our aerial domain, no, as mentioned in our national territory. So all happenings, no, sa ating himpapawid, which is within the territory of the Philippines, as mentioned in the national territory, is subject to our criminal laws or our laws in general. So here, if a crime is committed in an aircraft, so no matter how high, regardless kung gaano siya kataas, no, sa himpapawid, hindi necessary na dapat nakalapag siya sa Pilipinas. As long as he is over the Philippine territory, he is considered as subject to the Philippine law. So if a crime is committed in an aircraft, no, traveling within the Philippine airspace, then he is liable under Philippine laws. So it is mentioned here that the Philippines has complete and exclusive sovereignty over the airspace above its territory. That is under Article 1 of the Convention on International Civil Aviation. So that is also applicable, or that is also in accordance with our national territory and the UNCLOS na convention, no? Okay, so when we say prospectivity, before going there is an exception, no, to the rule as to territoriality, and this is under Article 2 of the Revised Penal Code. Ibig sabihin nito, dito sa limang mga na-mention dito sa law, kahit na hindi siya na-commit yung crime within the Philippine territory, pwede pa rin siyang maging liable under the Philippine laws. kahit nasa outside siya ng bansa, kahit na nandun siya sa na-mention in the national territory na um, even outside the archipelago which is within our jurisdiction, kahit na outside siya doon, outside the Philippine territory siya, it's considered as a crime against the Philippines. So what are these exemptions? The first exemption is crimes committed while on a Philippine ship or airship. It means even if for an airship to be considered as that mentioned in number 1, it must be yung hindi dapat siya commercial, no? Hindi siya commercial na ship or airship. Ship, ibig sabihin barko. Airship, ibig sabihin eroplano, no? So, whether sa barko or sa eroplano which is owned by the Philippine government, it is an extension of the state, no? As mentioned in the national territory. Kung kunyari yung eroplano ng presidente ng Pilipinas lumapag sa Barcelona, Spain, and then inside that aircraft there was a crime committed. For example, may homicide na nangyari sa loob ng aircraft. Kahit na nandun siya sa Spain, no, nakalapag siya sa Spain, it is considered that the crime is punishable under the revised penal code because it is here, no, sa exemption niya. Okay, number 2, forging, counterfeiting of coins or currency notes in the Philippines. Yung mag-forge, mag-reproduce ng mga fake na Philippine peso, Philippine money, no? Kahit na saang lupalop ng mundo ka, if the thing you are forging or the thing you are producing are coins or currency of the Philippines, yung pera ng Pilipinas, you may still be held liable under the Philippine law even if you are outside the Philippine jurisdiction. Then, number 3 is the introduction of these fake coins and currencies, yung fake na money. If you introduce it into the country, ibig sabihin ipapasok mo, no? I-travel mo to the Philippines. So, even if wala ka pa sa Pilipinas, pwede ka maging liable. Liable under the Philippine law, that is. Okay? So, number 4, if the offense is committed by public officers or employees in the exercise of their functions. So, if you are a government employee, and you committed a crime in relation to your office, kahit na you are outside the Philippine jurisdiction, you are still liable under the Philippine law. Pwede ka pa rin habulin, no, under the Philippine law. And number 5 exception is crimes against the national security and the law of nations defined in Title 1, Book 2 of this code. You will discuss thoroughly on that specific crimes when you reach book 2, no? And these are crimes against nations or the crimes against national security, yung terrorism, yung mga ganon, kudeta, and all others. So if you commit that crime, even if you are outside the Philippine archipelago, you may still be held liable under our laws. So, prospectivity. In terms of prospectivity, pag sinabing prospectivity is forward na application, hindi pwedeng i-retroact yung application ng batas. So, hindi pwedeng paatras, no? The application of criminal law must be forward, no? Ibig sabihin, kunyari, you create a law today, hindi mo pwedeng gawing criminal yung prior acts. Kasi sabi natin, di ba, there is no crime and there is no law punishing it. So, kunyari, may crime um, the example I gave you was that of di ba, yung Dangerous Drugs Act. For example, wala pa tayong Dangerous Drugs Act. Ibig sabihin, hindi crime ang mag-possess, no, ng marijuana. For example, so kunyari today may marijuana ako. So pagka kinabukasan, ipapatupad or ginawa yung Dangerous Drugs Act natin. So, yung act ko of possessing the marijuana, being caught possessing marijuana the day prior to the enactment of the law, I am not criminally liable because at that time, that act is not criminal. Wala akong na-violate na batas kasi wala pang batas that time. And if it's just so happen na nag-create tayo, no, ng bagong batas, hindi mo pwedeng gawing criminal yung mga nag-possess ng marijuana before the enactment of that law because we will be following the prospectivity of the law nga. So general rule, it must no felony shall be punishable by any penalty not prescribed by law prior to its commission. So dapat hindi siya magiging held liable, no? That's the general rule. Hindi mo pwedeng paatras. Hindi pwedeng paatras ang application ng law. So, ang magiging liable lang dito sa bagong batas is yung from the day that it was enacted and the succeeding days, no? Yung mga tao na nag-violate nun at the time that the law was already enacted. But there is an exception to the rule. The exception to this rule is that if that law, no, is favorable to the accused, then that law is may be applied retroactively or paatras. Ang example nito is the suspension of the law suspending the imposition of death penalty. For the information of everyone, we have a death penalty law. The Philippines has a death penalty law. In fact, may na-execute tayo that prior na mga naging guilty, no, at napatawan ng parusa ng kamatayan. But the legislation, we created a law suspending the enactment or suspending the imposition of death penalty. Ibig sabihin, may ginawang batas na hindi muna i-impose ang death penalty. Ang mangyayari, those crimes which are punishable by death shall be mapapunish lang siya ng reclusion perpetua, no? So that is favorable to the accused. Pabor siya sa mga akusado na supposedly on death row. So ang nangyari noon, yung mga accused imposed with death penalty as a penalty of that crime, naka-avail sila, no, doon sa benefit ng law kahit na at the time that they committed the crime wala pa yung law suspending the imposition of death penalty. So ibig sabihin, that is an example of this exception, no, to the rule because it is favorable, no, it's favorable to the accused. Next is this is article 3, no, this is article 3. It defines felony and it classifies felonies. So itong nasa red, ito yung sa revised penal code mismo. This is the provision, the exact provision itself under section 3. So we classify felonies into 4, no, may 4 classification of felonies: crime, felony, offense, and misdemeanor. So, anong pagkakaiba nito? all of these are infractions of the law. All of these are violations ng ating law. But anong pagkakaiba, no? Anong pagkakaiba nila? So, when you say it's a crime, it is an act committed or omitted in violation of a public law. No? If you violate a public law, you are committing a crime. No? It's a generic term. No? Generic term used to refer a wrongdoing. So, that is a crime. Yun yung usual na ginagamit natin. So, if you violate the revised penal code or any special law, you are committing a crime. No? Ito namang felony. Ano naman ang felony? Ang felony are crimes punishable under the revised penal code. So, kung crime is yung general na term, ang felony naman are yung crimes, no? Or acts or omissions that you commit violating the revised penal code, no? Naka-specify lang siya na kung yung violation mo is a violation of the revised penal code, then you are committing a felony. So, for example, the crime of murder. The crime of murder is punishable by the revised penal code. Ibig sabihin, yung crime na murder nasa revised penal code, yun, nabawal at saka yung mga elements niya. Ibig sabihin, when you commit murder, you commit a felony. Another is an offense. Pag sinabing offense, yung vina-violate mo is a special law. What are special laws? Special laws are yung mga Republic Acts natin, no? For instance, yung Dangerous Drugs Act natin. That is a special law, and if you violate the Dangerous Drugs Act, you are committing an offense, no? And lastly, misdemeanor. Ang misdemeanor naman is just a minor infraction, no? Minor violation of ordinances. Ordinances are local legislations of local government units, yung mga sa within the cities lang, within the municipality created. For example, dito sa Jensen, ang ating sangguniang panlunsod ay nagke-create yan sila ng mga ordinances. One of which is yung an ordinance requiring all passengers arriving in Jensen to submit or to present a negative RT-PCR 72 hours prior to traveling. So, ordinansa yon. If nag-travel ka, papasok ng Jensen na wala kang hawak or hindi ka nakapag-present ng negative RT-PCR, you are committing a misdemeanor. No? So, that is the meaning of these classifications of felonies. Crime in general, and itong mga tatlong ito is yung different types of crimes that you encounter. So, what are the elements of felony? Meron tayong mga elements, no? In criminal law, it is important that all elements of that crime is present in order for you to be considered to have committed that crime. Dapat lahat ng elements na yun are present kasi absent one element, there is no more crime there is no more liability, there is no crime. General rule in general, no? So, matatakal nyo yan in book 2. Kasi in book 2, iisa-isahin nyo yung mga laws, iisa-isahin nyo yung mga crimes, and kung ano yung mga elements ng crime. So, as police officers, you must be familiar at the very least, no? You must be familiar of the elements of the crime for you to understand whether the person is liable, no, for that crime. So, an act, pag sinabi, kasi sabi natin kanina, felonies or acts or omissions punishable by law. So, there are two kinds. There is an act and there is an omission. Pag sinabing act is bawal gawin pero ginawa mo, no? That is act as a felony, acting as a felony. So any kind of movement which tends to produce some effect in the external world includes possession. So yan yung act. Pag sinabing omission, the law says that you must do it. Dapat gawin mo pero hindi mo ginawa. That is an omission, and that is also considered as a felony, no? The failure to perform positive duty which one is bound to do under the law, and there must be a law requiring the performance of. So kailangan may batas na nagre-require na dapat mong gawin yun. For example, you are required to pay taxes, no? So kung hindi ka nagbayad ng tax, that is an omission, and that omission is a felony, no? So yung mga tax evasion natin na mga crimes are felonies of omission. Yung mga sa murder, bawal magpatay, no, ng tao. Patayin mo yung tao. And if you do it, that is a felony of acting, no? An act as a felony. So that is the first element of felony. It is an act or omission. The act or omission must be punishable by an act or omission committed by means of dolo or culpa. So itong dalawang ito, yung act or omission, it must be committed willfully or negligently. So these are the manners of committing the felony. It must be willful. Ibig sabihin, itong willful, ibig sabihin, kusa, no? Kinomit mo siya because you really want to do it, no? And culpa naman, these are Latin terms kasi, no? Culpa naman is you did it negligently. Hindi mo sinadya, but you were negligent, naging pabaya ka. That's why the crime was committed, or the act or the omission was performed or committed. That is why you are still liable for felony. And this act or omission committed by means of dolo and culpa must be punishable by the code. It must be punishable by law. Dapat may batas talaga na nagsasabing it is a crime, because as we have said, there is no crime when there is no law punishing it. So it is really important also that there is a specific law, no, violated. So I will cut this video. I will resume discussing it on my next discussion or next video.